welcome to the podcast. Here we are in California. Yeah, man, it's exciting. So we're here celebrating and exploring vintage 4x4s, adventure, family culture, and being a man in the 21st century. We're here with Luke, speaking of being a man in the 21st century.
I'm a man. It's 21st century.
Luke's here. And man, we're so pumped to be here with my good friends and one of my mentors, the elusive Billy Parks. Billy's one of the most fascinating people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. And honestly, man, we could do 10 episodes and have a blast. So thank you so much, Billy, for being on the show. Why don't you say hi, Billy?
I think of you more as a mentor than me.
No way, dude.
No way, bro.
So let's just, before we get into this, I just want to say
everybody.
this. Like, as I think about, I've been in business for about 15 years, professionally building vintage 4x4s through anything Scout and through New Legend. And as I think Luke and I were talking the other day, there's probably been 4 or 5 people that have been kind of pivotal moment people that have helped shape my thinking and business direction, and you've been one of those people, man. So it's it is an honor to be sitting here with you today. Before we get started, I do want to thank Kenda Tire. Since 1962, they've been making tires, and really, like, what's cool is they're like a sleeper brand. They just kind of, like, we discovered them just a couple of years ago, and they've been making tires in the bicycle market, #1 tire company in the OE golf cart market, like, in the world.
All sorts of crazy stuff. Wheelchairs.
Yeah. But man, they're just investing a lot in new technology and just coming out with some great things. So they're very smart, talented, cool people out in Ohio. There's like that ray gun shirt that's like Ohio.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. Get them all this. But they're busting out great designs. And so we run the Cleaver RTs on all of our New Legend trucks, and they're just fantastic. And so encourage you to go check them out. Kenda Tire, Cleaver RT. Good stuff. Okay, so Billy, you're an LA boy.
Yes, sir.
Been in the city your whole life.
Yes, sir.
The birthplace of hot rod culture. We talk about this and with all of our guests.
Yeah.
What does driving mean to you? What did that mean in your life? Think about the 16, 17-year-old Billy Parks.
Well, the 16-year-old, 17-year-old Billy Parks was definitely just running the streets with my with my other young buddies from, like, just like LA car culture was cruising Sunset, going back and forth to parties. Like, we weren't riding our bikes to our friend's house. We were like waiting for the first person to get their car. We were as many people as we could pile in. Like,
and it was a big thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, LA is car culture. Like, everybody drives everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. I have a lot of fond memories of just piling with my buddies, everybody screaming at each other, everybody yelling, "Who's going to be the DJ? Don't switch the song." And then, like, bombing out to Palm Springs for like a weekend, or bombing up to Big Bear or Mammoth for snowboarding and skiing. And then, there's like a class culture too, right? Like, LA was all about flossing. You think about LA, I'm 42. So LA in the like mid 80s, mid to mid 90s, everybody just wanted the like nicest, cleanest, prettiest thing. I remember one of my dear friends now, Kevin, when I was looking at the first car I ever got, and I really wanted to have a car, I was like, man, I want a truck. And he's like, dude, that's a chick deflector.
Chick deflector.
So even, because think about, just for a second.
That was like the 16-year-old's brain on trucks where I grew up.
That's interesting, because LA is seriously, like, lowrider culture originated here.
Yeah.
Hot rod culture originated here. Even, in my opinion, the modern rebirth of the vintage 4x4 started here.
Oh yeah.
But as a 16-year, you aspired.
But for me, I was like me personally, I was like a more of a like city West Side LA kid, and less of a like beach.
Got it.
Valley, like California garage kid. Me personally,
right?
Like the love of vehicles came to me later.
That's cool.
With my first Scout.
So what was your first vehicle?
Yeah.
Well, the
Did you get
first
a truck?
car, I got a Scout. That was my first car.
Wow.
So when I went to college in Colorado, and I my parents knew I needed a car. They didn't have a ton of money. I didn't grow up with like a ton of money, and they gave me, I think, like $4,000, which is a lot of money for people, but like not like in LA culture.
That was
like
in the 90s, right?
Yeah, that was in the 90s. So it was like a
90s.
decent amount of money, but it was something that had to get me through college and that kind of stuff. So I found in Lamar, Kansas, a green Scout 2.
That's so cool.
73. And,
So you're living in LA, you went out to the Midwest to find a nice
well,
Scout.
I knew I was going to Colorado.
Oh,
so I
God,
went
okay.
out to Colorado College. I lived there, and then my buddy Jay Klug, who was from Iowa, he drove with me in his car to Kansas to get this vehicle, and we drove it back.
To Colorado.
From
you make
Lamar,
it?
Kansas. Yeah, I made it great.
That's
yeah,
rad.
I mean, that car was my car all through college. It didn't have a starter. Like you could just turn. I mean, you didn't need a
right.
key
You
to
just-
start
right.
it. You just
Turn the
turned the
ignition.
ignition.
Yeah.
So very often, that car would just end up somewhere else. So
so
very
funny.
like I
Once
had
your
a couple-
buddies found that out.
Yeah, my buddies all knew that, and very often I would get a call from Dean Edmonds, the lovely dean at Colorado College, who I will love to this day, saying to me, "Hey man, why is your car parked in the quad?" You know,
That's awesome.
So that was that was my first my first
awesome.
car. I didn't even know what a Scout was when I
What
bought it.
what was the end of the Scout? Like when did
The
you
end of the Scout, so it did great for me all through college, like out to the mountains, running around, you know, kind of, there was a great place in Colorado Springs called Get 'em Up Scout.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember
Yeah,
that.
Rod. I
And
remember Rod.
Yeah. And they supported me like as I needed things here
awesome.
and there, but it was a great rig. I mean, it leaked gas everywhere, and it had like terrible, funny interior, and you know, just like all
Right,
those
right.
things that, and especially when you're in college and you like barely can just
Yeah.
get your shirt on and get to class. Like I wasn't like trying to fix it up, but, when I was driving it home, I went on a road trip to drive it home, and I threw a rod
Oh man.
because I don't think I had changed the oil the whole time I had it. And I mean, I didn't grow up knowing anything
Right,
about cars other than like.
So that's an ambitious move, getting a 73 Scout, not having an automotive kind of background.
I had no
You just
clue.
were like, man, those look cool. I want one.
Man, those look cool. I want one.
And that's cool you picked a Scout, because you could
Yeah.
have picked a Blazer or a Bronco. You could have
I
picked a
had
lot
some
of things.
like, so when I went off to boarding school, like after growing up in LA, there were some like kind of more rough and tumble dudes who love more rough and tumble cars at my boarding school, like was up in the San Ynez Valley, and they had older, cooler,
Like-
beater uppier
Okay.
trucks,
Yeah.
and I got a vibe for like the Ranch, California, kind of like what we love about iron and resin.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's awesome.
and I think that started my taste. It started my taste in punk music. It started my taste in like post-punk music. And then I think I kind of extended that into my Colorado college life.
Because what's crazy is we talk about this a lot. They say that this generation of young people, it's like your boys,
Yeah.
potentially, this is the last generation that needs to learn how to drive. It's
Right.
kind of like a rite of passage. So let's talk for a second. What does Billy
terrifying.
Parks think about the future of driving? With
I mean,
autonomous electric.
I haven't put a ton of time of thought into it. I would say that like I get a ton of pleasure. I mean, obviously I'm sitting
Yeah.
across from you and we've had a great time over the past couple of years, but like I get a ton of pleasure from everything, like watching my kid for the first time try to open a lock on a Scout. And our buddy who we just built a car for, our buddy Jesse, like he brought his son over here to see it for the first time when you shipped it out to LA, and watching his son Coop try to, like watching
Hit the lock,
Jesse
right, right.
teach
Yeah.
Coop how to open a lock and a door on
Has
a
he
car.
ever seen a crank
How
window?
do I get this window down?
They'd never
Yeah.
seen it before.
That's
I even had to look
awesome.
at my buddy Jesse, who's the same age as us, and be like, "Hey, man, what kind of car did you grow up with? Did your parents grow up with really nice cars, or were you guys struggling and you had buckets, or
Yeah.
what?" Like he's like, "No, dude, I've been in cars with a heater and the AC didn't work. Like
Yeah.
you know, like I'm excited to pass a little bit of that on to my son."
I'm excited to have floors in my vehicle. Growing up in Connecticut. Well, that's fascinating topic, man. Like,
I worry about them not being able to drive for sure.
especially in the city.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's I mean, obviously, it's deeply connected to like a rite of passage. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Every film that's about coming of age in that area has an aspect of the automobile as part of it. There's obviously things from the past that we want to lose, and there's obviously things from the past that we want to keep, and we got to like think about what's going on with our environment and the world
That's
and
right.
all that kind of stuff. But that being said, that like there's a deep power of autonomy that I think you get when you first
That's
like
right,
are
man.
in your car by yourself. That especially city kids who like just have to push a button to find a map and figure out where they're going, and they don't even have to do anything. They just push the button and they are somewhere.
That's wild.
That I think having that autonomy where they get themselves
huge,
somewhere
dude. It's
is
huge.
like
I do wonder about that.
Yeah.
Because it was such a huge thing in my life, man. I grew up in kind of rural Connecticut, and having that my first car, like I kind of like sneak drove a lot, but having my first.
You mean you stole your parents' car when they weren't?
Yeah, my own cars. I had the car since I was like 14. But having my license legally going like, dude, I can go wherever this dollar's worth of gas will take me.
Oh, I love it.
Just scrounging up change.
Oh yeah, I would empty out my parents' like ashtrays and just take any change I could scrape. I remember going often because gas was like 98 cents a gallon when I first got my license, and it was just so
No, I mean,
fun.
I think it's like a long list and like of lots of rites of passages that are not going to be passed down below that we have to
big
decide.
first freedom and responsibility combination.
Oh yeah,
And I think too, Billy, you brought up a point to me, like in my mind, that like with the young people, let's say autonomous driving is a thing. Driving by yourself is illegal, and kids start watching
gonna be
movies,
crazy.
old movies, and they start going like,
Any given
"Dude, I'm gonna go
Sunday,
find
man."
this car out in the woods and go like try to get it running, so
names.
I can experience what that was like." Just kind of, I can see this kind of rebel culture.
Well, that's like the ATVs and motorcycles, like mobs going around, cruising around. Maybe that'll just start taking everybody will be doing that.
That's right.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I can see subcultures built and spaces built for that. Maybe
That's for sure a thing.
you know, like
that's
you
already
know,
being
just
developed.
like I don't know if they're gonna, Teddy Roosevelt really help us set aside a lot of public lands
Not
for
in
lots
Iowa.
of great reasons. Not in Iowa.
No.
It's like 0.5% public land or something.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Arizona's the place to be.
I got it. But I think like there's going to have to be some sort of space built.
Yeah, they're already like there's a big
know.
big rise in like private racetracks, driving centers, off-road parks. Like
Yeah.
it's that is the
It's
thing.
going to be weird to really see it shift to recreation and a hobby and like, hey, this weekend you want to go driving?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
Well, it's kind of
and
like
just
what hunting is, right? Like people like hunt
Yeah.
to live and live to hunt, but like they don't need to technically, right? Like, hunting, fishing, like that is a thing that's alive and well. And people build it into their lifestyle and their lives in a way that like,
it's regulated, right?
and it's regulated, but like that's, it's a tough comparison in the sense
you think
that like,
there'll
that's
be
a lot
like
of trucks.
urban centers with street lights and you have to parallel park and that's like, oh, this is fun.
This is fun.
Different. There's racetracks and then there's just like urban driving spots.
So today we're talking about this idea of deciding to adventure. And so
Yeah.
Billy, when we met, it was
Yeah.
like 2.5-3 years ago.
Yeah.
We were out.
Been that long?
One of the first big things we did together. Well, we took a trip to Texas. That was fun.
Yeah.
But one of the first kind of big things we did together was this kind of moto vintage truck rally. It was just like just go take a trip.
Yeah.
Out
Yeah.
at Ben Marr's farm.
Yeah.
Ben was on a previous episode. Great, amazing guy.
Yeah.
So we're just having this epic thing, shooting video, photos, and we had this crazy, illegal in any other state bonfire.
Huge.
Well, it's legal because it's on Ben's farm.
That's right.
Well, so I don't know if you guys were down there when he lit it, but he made a trail of gasoline probably 100 feet long.
That's the thing in
And
Iowa.
he's done bigger ones for sure.
But I was a ways away, and when the gas hit the fire, I just like I felt it in my chest.
But,
Yeah.
So we're chilling.
yeah.
And there's like Ben's got a bunch of motorcycles, and he's so wonderful about like just ride it, man. Go ride it. If you break it, you're gonna help me fix it.
Yeah.
But there was like that. What was it like some DR350 or something?
Oh
Something like
yeah.
that.
Whatever
the
that bike,
aqua
blue.
Yeah, the aqua blue one.
So I just discovered like
Ben would punch me if I didn't know the make and model of
Billy's
that. But
showing up. He's like, I've never ridden a motorcycle before. And we were all just like super stoked that you were just hopping on this bike and starting to rip it around. And that was a pretty magical moment for me, just seeing like the joy in your face of like, dude, this is rad, this whole new thing. And I feel like, so since then, now you're like a riding fiend. Like you ride way more than we do. Like, and so you're just, and it just seems to me like that there's been a lifestyle shift in some ways. So that's what I wanted to explore. Because I think that's encouraging, motivating, inspiring for me, for others, and I think the people that are listening.
Yeah.
That at 40 years old, you can begin to take this shift in life, and maybe that's not accurate. So let's explore.
Yeah, I mean, Steve from Wilderness Collective, he says something that I like a lot, which rings home with the way you guys live. And that I think about a lot, and I think is important, like the old vehicles or going on trips, and like it's just building a rhythm of adventure into your life. And so like Steve put a really good, he does a really great job of putting a beat on something like that, because his intentions are pure. But like, I think when I first met you, and we started like saying like, hey, let's build some cars together and let's have fun together. It really helped me realize that you can have a business that is that has a scale that can take care of your family, that can put people that are in your community to work, and you can have a whole lot of fun doing it, not just in the office because everybody cares about each other and cares about the product, but also because you guys go away together. And so I was pretty inspired by that, which is why when you say, like it's a mentor thing for me too, is watching the way you live your life with your people. And so I watching you more than just jumping on a motorcycle, because I'm still not a great rider, but I definitely go around a lot. But more than like jumping on a motorcycle, it was like watching the way you run your business and the way you and your employees all like care for each other and take care of each other and like have a great rhythm of work and fun and caring in your lives. That really inspired me. So since then, I've really worked hard to try to build that into my life as well, and kind of take a step back from what I thought was important with my own work, which was mostly just about like, making a bigger name, making more money, like getting as big as I can, like really kind of having that voice in the back of my head, to like, okay, wait a minute, how can I build a life for myself and build work for myself that's meaningful, but also has a great connection with the people I'm working with, has great positive vibes where people have a similar and same goal and everybody's getting good things out of it, and is like moving and is able to adventure and travel together. And I see that not just for me and my own health and like what's good for me. I also like, as much as you saw me jump on that motorcycle for the first time, one of my favorite moments is watching you teach Owen how to ride on that trip that we did, like watching you, like, okay, like watch him get frustrated and then watch you show him how to do it and like, here are the gears.
Just
and
quick context. Owen's been riding since he was like 3. We started on an ATC 70, like 3-wheeler. But what Billy's talking about is Ben has this DR 650.
Yeah.
Owen's like
big bike.
Pretty big bike.
Yeah.
I'm like,
can't touch the feet.
Yeah. And the DR 650 is a tall bike.
Yeah.
And so, that was a big moment for him too. Like,
I
can ride a big people bike. Like,
big people.
Yeah.
And it's like, just a little side note, it's got a really like tall first gear.
Oh yeah.
DR 650 is like, you can go like 40 in first.
Yeah.
They wrap out, so it's kind of challenging to ride.
Yeah.
Actually. But that's cool. Start.
But that's it. I think mostly just trying to make sure that, especially being an LA kid who didn't grow up like camping in the woods, being in the forest, taking adventures, like it's just like a different culture where I personally grew up in the city. There's lots of kids who got out with their dads. My dad wasn't like an outdoorsy guy. He was a great guy, loving father, but like he wasn't sleeping in the dirt with me,
So what does that mean? Like, because there's a couple things I want to dissect with what you said, but like the actual like getting out, camping, fishing, like just being out in nature. What has that experience been like from a kid that grew up in LA that didn't really go camping or do that kind of stuff?
I mean, for me, it gives you a chance to kind of like just let down, like turn off, like right now in this place in our lives, it's like like no signal,
Huge.
turn off
Yeah,
your
that's
phone,
huge.
put it away. That's great. There's always somebody else to take a picture. That's great. I think the conversations that you have sitting around the fire are like, they're pretty special when you're not
rich.
bouncing between your phone and like, and that's gives people an opportunity to like connect and like talk to people and like see different perspectives. And like, I mean, I can't think of a group of guys who has a more different upbringing than mine, with all you Iowa boys, and the way you guys all live in Ames. But when we all get together, like I get to learn about that. I get to like, blue states and red states that get to talk and like human beings who have different, so I like the community around it. I like just like getting away from light pollution and like sound pollution. And then I love the idea that like all the skills that I'm building for being able to like have autonomy out in the woods and take care of myself is that like, I'm going to be just like you showed your son on the motorcycle.
Passing that on.
All those little dudes. And if I had a daughter, but I don't, but like those
Right,
little dudes can roll, with us.
And that's what another thing I love is you've already, it's not just like Billy's adventures. Like you're already including your kids on that, like is a part of like this lifestyle that you're living. And I think that is really rich, man. Cause at the end of the day, when they grow up, they're going to go like, I guarantee you, they're going to be like, those are some of the fondest memories I have. It's like, I was chilling with my dad out in the woods, like, or by a campfire and throwing sticks. And
they might not be able to drive a car there.
That's right.
But we can still, but they can still like fly fish. I mean, if we take care of this place that we live in,
That's
but
right.
like, but yeah, like this is everything that I do. I spent a ton of time with my dad on the baseball field.
Yeah.
And a ton of time with my dad on the soccer field. And that was all great. And my kids love that too. But like, I think getting out of this city and getting into adventure land where we're not competing with screen time and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Just getting them out and letting them be free. Like when we go to campsites, they just roam, man.
Isn't that cool?
And that sounds normal to somebody who's in the Midwest or in a more rural environment, but like it's really not to me. Like you look where we are. We're at my house now. Like they're not just gonna walk out, man. Like they need, we have to monitor them in a way that like they're not free range in the way they can be when we're out on an adventure or camping.
But that's what I appreciate again about you. Like, is so many people can think that they can intellectually understand, doing this would be great. Going out camping would be great. Expanding my competence as a dude to do stuff would be great.
But taking action on
But taking action, like that's what we talked, one of our other episodes was going from like dream to dirt. How do you go from like having this aspiration to do something to actually pulling the trigger?
Yeah.
And maybe something that you're saying is community plays a huge part in that. Like, so kind of getting people in your life that are not even like-minded, because again, you brought up another point that I think is really powerful in our crazy divided culture. Like we're so divided, man.
Yeah.
That this is one thing. We go out camping, like people are people, and people love to do stuff and experience things.
Yeah.
And if you can get people around that, then we start going like, dude, we actually get along great.
Yeah.
And who cares if we think differently about X, Y, or Z?
That's just sitting around a campfire eating good food, and you always bring good food when you come camping.
Billy,
So
we should say, again, I think we
food.
talked about this. We were in like a number of trips, but one most notable, we're on heading to the Scout Nationals in Ohio. Billy joined us. We stopped in Kickapoo, Illinois to buy the Scout. And it's like it's out in the middle of farmland. And we're just like in these old beat up Scouts. And Billy's just like, hey guys, want to come out for some brie and baguettes? And we're just like, oh, wow. Okay. And it was actually very pleasant. It was a really nice experience to have good quality food.
I bought it at the store right by where you were, storing
awesome.
all those Scouts.
Yeah, but sitting around a fire and having good food, you can. I mean, that'll bond anybody.
Yeah, good food's important. And I appreciate that you bring that to the table, because we'll go like just bring a pack of cold hot dogs and you grit it out, but like you bring an element of like, you bring this element of like, we should celebrate this food. It does make the experience richer, and we should do an episode on
food,
the importance of food.
Campfire food. Yeah, no, I think I think your strong points are breakfast. I think you could use some work around the lunch and snacks and dinner. Like
noted.
But I think it's just ingredients and intention.
Yeah.
Like I think you get that.
That's good.
I think you guys are also always like in a mad rush to get. You guys are like finishing some you're finishing a rig. You're like, this thing fell off the thing, and like, Ben's gotta go take a shower again, and like whatever. Like there's always something going on that rushes you guys out the door. So it's kind of like unleavened bread, right? Like you get
that's right.
You get what you get. But I think you did ask a question about to action.
Yes.
And going from intention to action, and like it was actually really hard, right? Like, think about like how much time, energy you and I spent getting to know each other before like we were all sleeping dirt together, right? So like, that sounds a little weird, but I think
was that trip one of those kind of pivotal trips?
That was our first kind of content. I was like, let's just get out there, let's just shoot some stuff, like let's just like build up some content. And I brought out August came and Jenny came, and we just like. And I called the guys, and I was like, what's the route? Where do we do it? Because I'm talking to you. You're like, oh, yeah, we'll just go. We'll figure it out. I'm like, I know the sound of that. And I have a whole life as a producer. That's not what I want to hear. Like, let me talk to somebody who's going to give me points on maps so we can build a trip, so we can get some great content and hang out.
And you actually, let's just back up, because you actually, I think we kind of knew Ben a little bit, like heard about Ben's farm through the Fontanelle guys.
Yeah.
But like you actually really more introduced us to Ben than we did, and you're from LA. He lives in Iowa.
Well, I just knew we needed, if you're going to do a shoot, we were going to, we built some cars. We wanted to capture some content around them. I knew that we needed some freedom to do that if the Iowa police didn't want us shooting on open roads without permits, right? So I talked to the Fontanelle guys, and I was like, hey guys, like, we're going to go try some stuff, but we also want a good home base where we can like, a big farm or some big, beautiful place where we can like sleep and hang out and camp and shoot cars and just like have a good time without the pressures of like roads and whatever. And they're like, yeah, we know this guy, great guy, Ben. I'm like, great, give me his number. And so Ben was just one of these guys who you never know. You're like, he's like, yeah, whatever you want. Cool, sure, yeah. I'm like, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But I've never met a guy who is like, yeah, you break it, we'll fix it together. Yeah, he's amazing. He's the solid person. But it's really hard to go from like being a 40-year-old city guy who's got a bunch of friends who like are around a certain kind of social circle and a certain kind of school and a certain kind of like, like circumstance, like very city-oriented folks, and take all those friends who you've been friends with since Little League and now try to either get them out in the woods with you or build a whole new group of friends to do it. And like, you, my friend Steve, like me and the Iron and Resin guys, like I had to like try to build, there's not one kid I grew up who rides a motorcycle.
Right.
Not one. So I had to build a whole new group of friends, which is like scary and it's hard. And you feel like isolated because you're like, oh, I'm in somebody's new group. You guys were super special because you're so welcoming.
So you didn't have any luck convincing your friends to go sleep in the dirt?
I think I have friends who will go camping, and a lot of the dads at our school are really good about that and hiking and camping and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of like willingness to like go on weekend trips and stuff like that. But definitely not motorcycles. Like that's like I have
that's
very
another
few of them.
dimension. Like because that is a good point because and any of it's good. Like going out for a day hike up in the hills is great.
Yeah.
But adding the vehicle dimension just requires we've talked a lot about gear, setting up maintenance, like having the vehicle which can take you to some spectacular places and adds this element of like you talked about earlier, just like it's so fun to ride a motorcycle off-road or to drive off-road and get to places that you don't really who wants to hike 50 miles in to get to like this remote place? It's so tiring.
They do it.
And that's a whole nother but to get people particularly around the mechanical around like motos and or vintage 4x4s especially, because adventuring in a vintage 4x4 is a whole nother subgenre.
Well, I know for me, I'm trying to get some people together to do something and they're just not feeling it. It's pretty easy to lose steam on it. So the fact that if you went to a few friends and they're like, that's not really my thing, but you kept charging and you find a new group to do that.
Yeah. I've been grinding, to find people that are like, I'm lucky I found you guys. So I just, I just hop on to whatever you guys are doing. And then I try to keep building groups of people like that are like communities that I can fit into, hopefully aligned-minded, hopefully they're good to each other, like it's tricky. Yeah. And the motorcycles is the hardest part. Like for me is like people who are willing to like, who are willing to like get on the highways in California. Because it's obviously, dangerous.
A little dicier.
It's a little dicey. Like, yeah. And every once in a while you get a friend who goes down and like they get,
Right.
So it's the motorcycle part is really hard.
Yeah. I'm excited this summer. My bike's been in storage for 2 years. So I'm excited to get it out this summer and get it freshened up.
What's
the CB550, the 1974 Honda CB550.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Got Luke, kind of a bobber style to it.
Yeah, Luke, you got the CJ?
I got a CJ 360, just a wee body.
Yeah.
But it's been down for 2 years maybe.
So we got to get cracking.
What do you guys feel about like riding motorcycles on roads versus just like going someplace and then like zipping around and having fun in the dirt?
Yeah. I definitely, like, I'm with you, man. It makes me nervous every time. Yeah. I tell you, 100% of the time I'm riding, like we live in a college town, 65,000 people. And Iowa's no helmet laws.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But it kind of, I think it's good. People should have the freedom to crack their melons if they want. But anyway, but every time I drive through an intersection, I'm always like,
hyper alert.
Like, here we go. Okay, cool. I'm going through. And that's nothing, dude, compared to LA traffic when you're splitting lanes and living on the edge.
Ben Mars's buddy, Gustafson was out here, and he and I rode up to Ojai and then rode to the Dodger game.
Yeah.
And we rode to the Dodger game from the 10 freeway to Dodger Stadium, which
and
is about like 15
Midwest
miles.
Dude.
He's a Midwestern dude. He was on my GS and I was on my Harley. Mm-hmm. And we went through about 10 miles of splitting lanes and like pretty much standstill traffic. And when we got there, he was like, dude, that was pure hooliganism. He was very surprised that was legal.
He
knew that it was legal, but he was like, I can't believe that.
Because I rode in California, I had a CB750. And when I got to Iowa, I would like, 2-lane traffic up to a stoplight. I'm like just going in between, and people are like, "What are you doing, man? Like, don't do that." I'm like, so it took me a while to adjust, but I missed that about California. Yeah. Well, cool. So as you've been exploring, give us a quick little like, what have been some places that you've explored, discovered in California, Southern California, you just love? You got to share.
Right. Well, my favorite like trip. If you live in Southern California and you want to just get out and have a great time, is like anything up the 395.
Okay.
So basically from Palmdale up the 395, it's the route that goes along the Eastern Sierras. So it kind of starts in Palmdale and continues up through like Lone Pine, Bishop, up to Mammoth. So it's about like LA to Bishop is about 5.5 hours, and there is all kinds of camping. You can to the right side away from the Sierras, you have like Mojave, Death Valley.
Way, that's a very California way to say it. Like Iowans always use north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
Like, they would never say right. But that's because that's something I'm still bad at in Iowa. Everyone's like, it's the eastern door. I'm like, which way is that? Is that the left one or the right one?
Yeah, east of the 395, you have like the desert. So you have like Mojave and Death Valley. And then to the west of the 395, you butt up against the Sierras.
Oh, man.
So there's like, if you're going north on the 395 and you start to cut west towards the Sierras, the Eastern Sierras, you have all kinds of campgrounds that are high desert, beautiful campgrounds. And then you get further in there and it gets, the tree line, you get the John Muir Wilderness.
And have you explored some because I think I was reading open land stats in California is like 50% private, 50% public land.
BLM land?
Yeah, is there places like BLM land you can just go like
there's a beautiful
primitive camp and
there's a beautiful there's lots of BLM land, like a lot of Death Valley is BLM land, and I think Death Valley gets a bad rap because it just sounds like Death Valley. It doesn't sound pleasant, right? Yeah. But it's actually a really beautiful place to camp. Gorgeous, and there's like 2 or 3 month windows on both sides of the summer that are just beautiful, and it feels like you're on the moon. And then every once in a while, you're just like on desert, and it's great for dirt bikes because you can just bomb
that'd be
down
fun. That'd be so
like
fun.
sandy dirt roads, and you're in a pretty, you're really away from cars, but you can really like open the throttle up on your bike a little bit, and you can take it. You don't have to go crazy or anything. But then there's also really challenging terrain for 4-wheel drive vehicles and for motorbikes.
It's on our bucket list, so we'll definitely do
the Death Valley
Legend.
is great. There's so many beautiful places. There's beautiful place called Lipcott Canyon that goes like that's like very hard for 4-wheel drive vehicles, and it's like really challenging.
You
for
have not
motorcycles.
taken your Scout up there.
No, I haven't. I've taken dirt bikes there.
Okay.
So that's a great thing. There's more BLM land like west of like Lone Pine and Big Pine. So like Alabama Hills, places like that. Those are all great places to just pull in, and you set up your own fire. I think you need to have sometimes when you go to BLM land, you have to have a fire permit, which is pretty easy to do like online and stuff. Like
So I know what we got to do, Luke.
Okay, I'm
We
listening.
got to each score a bike, store it in the Billy Park's garage, public garage.
Yeah. Public garage.
So we just come out and go
Billy's
on trips,
down.
man. Because that's the challenge. Like, I know like California has its challenges.
Yeah.
But like Iowa, we have to drive pretty much 6 hours to get to anything pretty
least
awesome.
6,
I mean, the Northwoods of Wisconsin, Minnesota is a magical place.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
What's that? How long?
It's
was
about
that?
5 hours. 6 hours you're in Arkansas exploring some cool places.
What was that beautiful camp? What was a beautiful campground area we went to before we went to Mars Farm? What was that national park called? I remember it was like
some state park, but I can't
it was
remember
a
what
state park.
it was.
That was pretty.
Oh,
that
where
was
we got
woodsy.
busted?
Or we got busted for doing wheelies and
I
making
think I
noise.
took. I think I took.
It's called
got us out of
Dolliver State Park.
Yeah.
It's just so
Maybe it's
oppressive.
too small.
Impressive.
You feel like it was like locking the gate on you.
Yeah, dude. Like let me tell you a funny story. So we're just chilling at this. It's like Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Nobody's in this public park owned by the taxpayers of this great country. Okay, and dude, it's a giant piece of land. I get it, but like someone who I won't name, maybe went to the bathroom in the woods, just a urination.
But in the woods,
In
not,
the woods.
not like on somebody's tent.
In the woods.
Yeah.
Okay, so then this ranger comes over just like puffing up his chest, and Billy did a wonderful job of just, you're great at that, just talking people down. But he's like, all right, I should arrest you guys for public urination. I'm like, we're in the woods, man. Like, it's like, there's a bathroom 500 yards that way. I'm like, oh man, just got a bad day, I guess.
You needed something.
Yeah.
Everybody has their domain.
Yes. Okay, so
gotta give him
what
the
is
domain.
next for Billy Parks?
Oh man.
I know this is a can of worms, and we don't have to, but just scratch the surface a little bit, so we can, because
I
you
think-
started this life of adventure,
Yeah.
doing some cool stuff, bringing your family into that.
Yeah.
What's the next kind of evolution you're thinking about?
I mean, I think continuing to like build trips, fun things to do with my family is like core to it. Like trying to get my wife a little more comfortable in the out of doors. And I know you've worked on that as
Yes.
well. So like trying to build trips, and like I don't want to like roll around in a big old Winnebago. It just turns my stomach around.
Yeah.
So like trying to figure out how to build something that she's comfortable in, so we can all go on these adventures. It's not just me and the boys.
Have you guys talked at all about like a rooftop tent?
Yep. We've had lots of talks about lots of different.
So I'm excited. We have we're getting a new rig from Free Spirit Recreation FSR.
Yeah.
And it's
The trailer.
well, not only trailer, but what I'm most excited about is that they have a 5-person rooftop tent. So it's just
Yeah.
going to be like super spacious, and they have quilting inside for installation.
5-person tent.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude.
So like Billy and one other person.
Yeah, just me. Yeah, so that's the other thing. That's the other thing. I'm a big guy.
But your
So,
Traveler's sweet, dude.
Traveler's sweet. The rooftop tent is like all 4 of us can. I mean, I have 2 little boys that are 6 and 8, and they're very quickly going to be larger
Yes.
than
Right.
most of us. And
But you got a few years.
got a few years, yeah, but like
They can sleep in
trying
the
to
truck?
get it's trying to figure out. I'm happy in the dirt. I'm happy in the back of the Traveler. I'm happy. I don't really do the rooftop tents as much just because I'm big, man. I'm like getting up on those ladders and
Right,
like
right.
getting in there. It's like, it's not, I don't need that. Like, I think they're rad, but it's not for me. Like,
I'm just trying to think of for G, like, because for my wife, like one little tip to all you guys out there who have wives that didn't grow up like out in the woods.
Yeah.
Is you make them comfortable.
Yeah.
Don't, like, the false premise that I always had is the more suffering you do on a trip, the more memorable the trip is.
I believe in that too.
Yes,
For me, that's true.
Yes.
So I tried to push that on my wife, and it's just like we were butting heads, and she just didn't want to go. She's like, "Why would I want to go suffer?"
Willingly suffer.
Yeah. So once I kind of got it through my thick head, like, oh, we don't have to suffer. There's a lot of cool gear. There's a lot of cool things if you just have that intentionality and thoughtfulness to think through.
Yes.
How do I get like a Nemo concerto, like, which is this awesome sleeping bag?
I think she likes. Yes, I think good ground pads or pads. I think warmth.
Yes,
I think
warmth, dude.
I think that, something else I learned from you was like building that little shower thing that gets warmed up so they can do that. That's great. And then also, like, bathrooms are important to her.
Yes.
So like all of those things together scream big Winnebago.
Oh,
so
dude, we could do it.
that's just not my jam. Like, it's for so many reasons.
We just got to go on a trip together with my family and your family, and it would be so awesome.
So that's another thing. Is like getting support. Like, she definitely has more fun when we go with like a bunch of dads from school that whose partners are into it.
Right.
Like that always helps her along.
Yeah.
But that, but like big adventure trips,
Right.
where we're all going.
Yeah.
But like. It's like we're not always going to like
Right,
the
and that's
same
okay.
things. That's
That's right.
okay.
That's
I would
okay.
love for us to be that family, and maybe that comes one day. Maybe, but we're just going to try different things until she stops hating me every morning she wakes up.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll this is a great opportunity for another episode, because that's a whole nother subject that I'm passionate about. We've spent so many hours. Heather and I, it's been fun going, Heather, how to get her involved, and like, how do you want to, what is important to you, and how can we set up the base camp urban or the traveler, like, to be just right, like saying, not putting on the table the Winnebago, because that's not me either, but maybe a Sprinter, maybe different things.
Yeah.
Just like all the trip stuff we've talked about, it's a progression. So maybe you just take a weekend trip and you figure out, like, oh, we should do this better. We could do this. I didn't like this. And then maybe take more days.
For sure. Because learning together. Yeah. So one other thing, want to thank Midland Radio. Another thing that we discovered recently, that speaking of just traveling and overlanding, we've always been so ignorant of communications.
Oh yes,
so we've tried.
I've been on road trips with you guys where none of us know
just
where
hand
each other
signals
are.
as we're driving
hand
by.
signals. People
Cell
are pulling
phones,
up
but
next to
there's
each
no
other.
service.
There's no service.
Yeah. So we just started doing some research and discovered the guys at Midland USA, and what a great group of guys.
What do they do at Midland USA?
Well, they do a lot of things, and I don't know comprehensively. But at a scratching the surface level, there's a system called GMRS, which is like, essentially, it's like a CB radio. CB radio is limited to 4 watts, so it's going to have a limited range. GMRS goes up to 50 watts legally, which will reach up to about 50 miles. So it's just select the channel. Their kits are super easy, like plug it in the cigarette light. They have more robust kits, but we're excited.
But they've been a great resource because we go radios. I don't know how.
They basically just walked us through, like, what do you guys do? What do you need? And like handhelds, so like for your spotters or just people that are blazing ahead. If you have someone on a bike and they're just ripping ahead, so super stoked to partner with those guys and put them to use. We're heading to Moab and Flagstaff, and so we're gonna have comms, and we're super excited, and so that's gonna be great. Last segment, last question.
Yeah,
make it short.
Okay.
What does it mean to be a man?
Ooh.
You got 2 sons. I have 2 sons.
Yeah.
Luke is a man.
0 sons.
0 sons.
And I know it's a subjective question, or an interesting, deep question, but just to Billy Parks.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to be the best man you could be?
Man, I think the idea is to keep working on it.
Yeah.
Just to say, like, just keep looking in the mirror and trying to, like, be the best you can for the people in your family. I really, like, I do look to you a lot about, like, the way, like, you treat your family with kindness and you lead with kindness, and like those things are pretty irreplaceable, no matter what any faults you have are. And I think just considering what you're doing and trying to put a good foot forward in the world.
Yeah, I
both
love that.
the work that you're doing and the time you spend with your family. And it's hard, you know.
It is hard.
I don't do
I love that
everything
answer
right.
though, because it's not actually an answer I usually think about. It's more like provide, lead, be strong, like all these things, but just to frame it like just keep trying. Because we're all fallible. We all make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I've made tons of mistakes in my life. And but yeah, just keep moving forward. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, good, Billy Parks. Thanks for being
Yeah.
with us, everybody.
Yeah,
Luke,
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
We'll be back at it next week, and we'll have Billy on more episodes. And what's fun about these episodes is Billy's a private person, elusive. So you'll be looking at, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be looking at a beautiful slideshow of some new legend trucks. So someday you'll have to come meet Billy on a trip. So that we'll put it that way.
We'll put his home address in the link for it.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
so much,
Peace out
guys.
from California. Talk to you soon.